All right, welcome back to another episode of Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt as we talk about another Eagles victory, their eighth in a row, as a matter of fact, over a very tough test that we talked about in our pregame on the road over the Ravens in a game that, they had a late garbage touchdown because really you're looking at a 24-12 final, or at least, more indicative of what the game was like. They got a touchdown late with 3 seconds left that made Matt's prediction on the game basically right on the nose. Matt predicted a 24-21 Eagles victory. Final score was 24-19. So hats off to Matt and his deadly accurate prediction on the game. I had a little bit of a high-scoring game. I thought the game was going to open up more passing-wise. That never happened for either team. So my prediction, I had a 33-27. I basically said the first team to 30 would win the game. So I was a little bit off in my prediction, but Matt right on the nose. So congrats, Matt, on the prediction. We're going to talk about the key factors of the game. A lot of what we talked about ended up being the key to the game. If you watched our preview, and then we'll go through our normal thumbs up, thumbs down, and we'll be back later this week to talk about the Carolina Panthers, who's next up on the Eagles list. In a list that I think 4 of the last 5 games. How many games they got left? So it's 10-2, so that's 12 games. Yeah, so they got 5 games left. 4 out of the last 5 games at home, when the only road trip is down to Washington. So the schedule's working out in the Eagles' favor. So, Matt, what are your initial thoughts on the game? And then we'll get into thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, first of all, it's crazy to think there's only 5 games left in the season, right? Like, that's what makes the NFL great. It feels like it just started, and there's only 5 games left in a 17-week season. So,
Yep,
goes by fast, and every weekend's important. This is another game where definitely the best team that they've played so far this season.
Yeah,
and they came through, I think, with what we thought were going to be the keys of the game. And the key of the game will always be for Jalen Hurts, don't turn the ball over. And again, he did that. Maybe he doesn't make it all the way through his reads, but when he knows the play's toast, he just chucks it out of bounds. And what do they got? They got another play or two, and they usually reset themselves and they get going. So I think a lot of that's Kellen Moore's coaching influence on Jalen Hurts, but Hurts didn't give away the game. And if he can do that, then that keeps us in it. And I thought the defense played spectacular all the way from, the youngest guy on the field all the way to, without BG, I'm not even sure who the oldest player is anymore.
BG gave the pregame pep talk. I don't know if you caught that on any of the Eagles videos that have come out since, but he actually gave the pregame pep talk to the defense.
Yeah, because you think about it, Slay and BG not in the game, right? So the
two old guys,
scholars, the wise old sages, like this whole team was probably the average age on defense yesterday was probably 23 or 22. They were really young out there. And watch.
I'm glad you highlighted that too, because keep in mind also this is the first year that they're playing without Fletcher Cox, and we haven't really talked about that much in our during the season. But that was obviously a big gap to fill, shoes to fill per se, not having Fletcher Cox back there. And this line yesterday, early in the season, we were kind of really wondering and questioning, at least I was, is this defensive line going to be able to get enough pressure? And really, since the bye week, every single week, they may not be getting a ton of sacks, but every week they are getting to the quarterback.
Yeah. I think I had Josh Sweat correctly predicted at the beginning of the season about who was going to have the most sacks. He's at 8 right now, I think.
That was looking better for you. Yeah, it absolutely is. That
8 or 9?
He's got 8, and he's got, I think, 8 straight games with a sack.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't have a sack, until about 4 games into the season, but he's got at least 1 sack. I know he has 8 sacks over the last 8 games. They said it on the broadcast last night. So
good to see.
He had a sack in 8 straight games. So maybe that means he had nothing until 4 games into the season, and has had at least has had a sack every game since.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had Carter with 9.
I had Carter
Yeah,
with
you had you had Sweat with 9. I had Carter with 10. Carter right now is 4.5. So right now you're looking really good on that prediction.
close. Yeah, Carter was a beast again. That whole defensive line was a beast. But it's just awesome to watch what an impact. Like they're getting Jalen Carter to show up every game now.
Yes.
So that is going to put him on the path to the Pro Bowl for sure. And man, this is just year 2. So he is a dominant player, a dominant force in the middle of that line, and everyone else is feeding off of it. But to have, Zach Bond puts in another friggin' All-Pro game to make how well that guy's playing.
Yeah.
N'Kobe Dean, good enough, and the secondary, just you cannot pass on this team. They shut down the Rams, they shut down Lamar Jackson. Jackson was frustrated, and so was Zay Flowers, during the whole game.
And his own touchdown pass. I mean, I actually missed the one with 3 seconds left because my freaking TV started buffering. So I didn't even see the last touchdown. I have no idea how they even scored. I know it was a pass, but I don't know who caught it or whatever. But the one touchdown that he threw when it was legitimate game time was the one that he had the high ball that Andrews had to outjump 3 Eagles. So that was just a great play by Andrews.
And Jackson throwing the high ball. Guy was totally covered. It was like a short Larry pass.
Yeah. So that could have very easily, probably more often than not, is incomplete. So who knows if they would end up scoring a different way. But my point is they were all over Andrews, and he just made a really good play. And Jackson made a good high point pass to make sure he was the only one that could probably get it. But the pass defense has been unbelievable. And the fact that they don't even miss Slay when he's out. They don't miss him. There's not a heartbeat that skips when he's out. Now, I'm not trying to downplay Slay at all. No. I'm just saying it's more of a point of the depth on this team where they don't miss him.
Kenyon shuts down half the field already. And then, you've got Rodgers, who was a great pickup in the offseason from Howie, a castaway from the Colts, who's playing great. And then he's playing out because he beat the other 2 young guys, Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks, which are still on this team. So, and then the rookie safety,
McCollum, something like that.
McAllister. That's why we need our producer. He's playing ahead of Sidney Brown just because I think Vic Fangio saw more of him in the preseason. We'll see how that battle goes next year in the offseason for starting safety, because I still think Sidney Brown is a player, and Sidney Brown is killer on special teams. Every time they punt, you just watch Sidney Brown smoke his guy, the defender. I don't know what they call the defenders against the gunner, but Brown's the gunner, and he's almost the first guy. He could almost catch every punt. That's how fast he gets down.
Yeah. Did you see him early in the game when the guy was trying to block him? He gave him like a late push, and he threw him 10 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that play because we didn't talk about it on the when we were texting. But he took a guy who gave him a late shove and threw him like 10 yards down the field.
He's a
Sidney Brown, dude. He is just a Tasmanian devil on the field.
Yeah, he's contributing like a beast on special teams. So
yeah, he is.
Just all around.
He caught that, or he got to that one punt that rolled inside the 1 yard line. That was him that got down there.
Yeah, and even the punting game deserves some consideration for thumbs up because they planted 2 down there, didn't they? They had 1 down at the 1, and then
I have stats because he's one of my thumbs up guys. How often do you put a punter on a thumbs up?
Yeah,
he's a thumbs up. So I'll give you his stats when we get to the thumbs up, thumbs down. But absolutely, he deserves.
Yeah, he stood out. Just an all around great game, great coaching. Great way to show up. I think it sets us up for we can't get trapped by Carolina next week because they're playing tough.
I like it.
But
if it was on the road, I might have a slight interest in that, but there's no way they're going to stumble at home. I don't see it happening.
Can't ever tell in the NFL. They have to bring the same passion to this game.
No doubt. And
Sirianni keeps them focused, So great job overall, start to finish. And it's so funny with this team, because they've almost started out, I think they've started out losing almost every game, right? They're down by a touchdown by the end of the first quarter. Sometimes they're down by 10 points, but they're never down by 20, right? So Vic Fangio, you said this last week, I think, on our last podcast, how Vic doesn't waste any time. He looks at that first series and he's like, okay, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
and he kind of figures it out.
Yeah.
And by the time the defense gets around, they've got things figured out usually by the second half. And then our offense usually changes in the second half and just starts to dominate, Kellen Moore is just doing a fantastic job as OC. And they both, between him and Vic, they've got their fingers on the pulse of each game. It's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I would say I agree with Moore. The only thing that kind of bothered me outside of just the first quarter offense, which I don't know why they should do before the game, whatever they script up and design during the week as their game plan, they might as well just tear it up because it's horrible every single week. Whatever they design first 10 plays, 15 plays, it's always bad. They never run. They never do anything in the first quarter. I don't know what's going on with this team. That's my biggest frustration with this team right now is you mentioned they're always down at the end of the first quarter or early in the game. It's because their offense is always 3 and out, or maybe they get a first down and then they go 3 and out. It's not that they don't do anything. If they could fix that problem, this team would be unbeatable. But when you start getting later, I mean, they beat a good team on the road, but when you get into the playoffs and you're giving away the first quarter all the time, and that's when it's really going to come back and potentially bite you. But my issue with Moore was the 2 or 3 plays in a row where he actually had a pass to Campbell, who was in the game. He hasn't even been active the last 3 weeks. And then the next play to him, next play was one to Shipley in the flat. I'm like, why are these guys getting the ball in the first quarter? That doesn't make any sense to me. Of course, the plays went nowhere. Campbell, I'm talking about, they passed to Paris Campbell, and then they did a flat pass out to Shipley. Nowhere. I'm like, this is a first quarter early in the game, a big game on the road, and you're using these guys. That didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand that.
It's a little bit of overthink. I don't know why they just don't go with a quick slant to A.J. Brown like every game.
Yeah, go to A.J. Brown in the first quarter. What are you doing? Even in like the second quarter, they threw like in 1 or 2 drives, they threw them 3 or 4 times. Every single one of them he caught quick slants over the middle, and then they didn't throw them at all this whole second half.
No. So,
I mean, I'm nitpicking again with this offense, but the first quarter stuff is driving me nuts now. Each increasing game or each passing game where they don't do anything in the first quarter it's a major problem. And I don't understand why it is such a problem because we're now 12 weeks into the season and it continues to be a problem. So I don't know what it is.
Is it a problem? We keep winning.
It is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's still a problem, though. I mean, I'm not talking about defensively.
Right.
Defensively, I understand because you don't know going in. You have a kind of a game plan or an idea to put together defensively. But Vic has been able to figure it out quickly what they're doing and then, fix things. Offensively, it just seems like if it's not for Saquon dominating or depending on him dominating the game, they just have this game plan every week that goes nowhere. It just goes nowhere.
Yeah, they're looking to get out of it. Maybe they're poking, trying to find holes and weaknesses in the defense that they exploit later. But they're not scoring any points, that's for sure, in the first quarter. But they haven't lost any games in the last 8. So
that way, I think that proves how good they are. But it's just I don't know. I don't know why I'm getting frustrated about it. But I don't know if other Eagle fans are, if it's just me. But it drives me nuts. They just go nowhere. And usually it's 3 and out. And actually, if it wasn't for the first carry of the game by Barkley, where he got 12 yards, that was their first down. Anything else they try to do, they didn't do anything. The first quarter, nothing.
Maybe they do it on purpose just so they can prove to themselves that if they get stoned in the second half at some point, they can come right back and start scoring. I don't know.
Yeah, just because now, we're obviously got playoff aspirations. We're starting to have Super Bowl aspirations for this team. And those type of issues, giving away a first quarter every game is going to come back and bite them at some point. You got to get off to faster starts in these games. At least move the ball a little bit. Maybe not necessarily scoring, but they're just the offense just seems so inept in the first quarter, and it's been like that all season. So anyway, that's really my only, that was my main concern coming out of the game, and it ended quickly because they played well the last 3 quarters. But I just think it's it's weird. As the show goes on, my chair slowly sinks, and I'm like, scream. So yeah,
I have a hard wooden stool. It doesn't shrink.
Yours doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, my chair's getting old. So, all right, let's get into the other thing I wanted to say is that the lines continue to be the reason why the Eagles win these games, both offensively and defensively. We talked about the pressure that they were getting on Jackson. He was off his spot most of the game. He was not comfortable back there. Of course, Jackson almost likes to be off his spot because he's such a he's got such ability to make plays with his legs. But almost every snap he was running either somewhere. Couldn't get his initial read because they were guys in his face. Talk about Jalen Carter being the main reason for that, but Sweat was getting in there. Even Jalix Hunt. I thought Jalix Hunt played a good game. And we're talking about stopping arguably the best running back in the NFL. He's right there with Barkley. And the Eagles were able to contain him pretty much. He didn't have any really long runs. He did his thing where he's always going to, he's tough to get him anything less than 5 yards to carry, but they contained him. And I was thinking they were going to try to exploit without having Brandon Graham in this defense. And they tried. They ran him up the middle. They ran him along the side. They gave him this typical, quick, what do you call it? Pitch out to him, things like that. And the Eagles contained him. Yep. And Jalix Hunt, I was watching him during the game because he's the guy. Because we talked about last week. We're like, I know it's a lot of pressure to talk, to put on this kid who's a project to begin with. But he's shown the ability, and he was in there a lot in that game. And he was in on a lot of plays. He wasn't making a solo tackle or anything like that, but he was the guy that was containing his edge and getting involved,
Yeah, they not only did they do a good job with Henry, but they did a good job for most of the game containing Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a special player, and he did break a couple runs and scrambles where he got the first down or scrambled wide, got a play, but the Eagles were frustrating him too because they were rushing but keeping him contained. They had a lot of hits on him. Like Lamar did not have a lot of time to throw that he didn't create on his own. So
nope, he was feeling that pressure too because you watch him more than I do. And we know he's a great quarterback. I mean, I'm more impressed with him every year because I don't really get to watch him as closely as you do. I know he's great. I know he's really good. And he deserves a lot of credit too because I remember when he was drafted, no one had any. They knew he had great athletic ability, but they were always harping on Baltimore taking him too early because they thought he couldn't pass. He'd never be a passer. And he could throw. There's no question. If he hasn't proven that by now, or if there's still doubters out there, the guy can play quarterback.
Yeah.
But he was inaccurate at times, and I think it's because he was the spot almost the entire game. He had to throw while he was running, or even when he wasn't necessarily feeling the pressure, he kind of like we talk about with Hurts feels the phantom pressure. He's like, I got to get rid of this because I know they're coming. Even if they're not necessarily there, and he was underthrowing guys. He did it a few times in the game.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is like taking Randall Cunningham and mixing him up with Michael Vick and getting the best out of those two players and then stirring in a little bit of Steve Young accuracy for a mobile quarterback and being able to make throws that are either on a dime or just nice drop it in a bucket type passes. He's the best combo of any running / throwing quarterback I think that I've ever seen play. And to have the Eagles pretty much contain him, with I know Bateman got injured and Aguilar.
Yeah, early on he got hurt.
Aguilar came in and filled in and, dropped us a pass or two, just
right in his arms.
Old Philly style. But, Zay Flowers is a playmaker and he was getting frustrated all game long. So
he was. Yeah. I liked Flowers a lot. He's a good player. I mean, I've watched him, during the year. And every time I watch that guy play, he's making big plays. Every time. And he did it last night. He made some plays too. Aguilar as well. I mean, we laugh about him because we know how he did with the Eagles, but he's still dangerous. And he's made plays this year for the Ravens where he scored long touchdowns where he's actually caught the ball. Of course, we know that because he did it with the Eagles too. That was the frustrating thing with him is he can do it. He just is not always does it. But he's a legit weapon that has burned teams, and the Eagles shut him down when he came in for Bateman. Flowers is just one of those guys that's tough to cover. And that's, again, where I don't think Q was on him that much. But when he was on him, I think he only had like really one big catch on Q.
He beat you once, yep.
But that's a tough guy to cover because he's such a quick he's almost like
a little zitterbug out there.
Yeah, I hate to put him in. He's not in Tyreek Hill's class, but he's kind of like that type of receiver. Not nearly as fast, but he's just quick. Like he's just a quick little guy who knows how to get open and he catches everything. Like I'm a big Flowers guy. So yeah, I mean, and we did all this in Baltimore. That's the other thing. That's a tough team to beat at home.
Yep.
And good coaching on that team. They won a lot of big games, and we knew this was going to be a test, and Eagles passed it. So anything else you want to touch on before we get into thumbs up, thumbs down, even though we talked about some of these players that are going to be highlighted here?
Yeah, they showed up, and they played a full 60 minutes, so kudos.
Yeah, cover everything that I just want to talk about generally in terms of what I wanted. Either you brought it up or I did. So let's get into thumbs up, thumbs down then. Let me change my little super here. There we go. So thumbs up. What do you got for thumbs up? I'll let you go first. And it could be a player we already mentioned. Just maybe talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, well, it starts with Jalen Carter, but since everyone knows Jalen is the first thumbs up, I'm going to go quickly past break Jalen Carter to get to Milton Williams and give him my number 2 thumbs up because we said last week he's got to show up, and Milton Williams had himself a game. So
Mo Williams or Milton Williams? Just kidding.
Milton.
A shot. I'm taking a shot at myself.
Yeah.
Milton Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. Knows. They all know it's Milton. You might say it's Mo, but they don't.
I was calling him Mo, and then like I said, I was listening to our own show a few weeks ago, and like I'm calling him Mo Williams. It's Milton Williams. Anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, he played great.
Milton Williams, big game, and then Cooper DeJean, he gets the press for that tackle on Henry, but that's how he tackles everybody.
Those should.
Passes, he's on him. He tackled Jamar Chase. He tackled Derrick Henry. He's going to move with speed, and he's not going to miss the tackle. It's such a sure thing with DeJean Cooper. Or Cooper DeJean and
Sean Cooper.
Yeah, DeJean Cooper. You got me screwing up names now.
I know.
So your nonsense out. The just those would be my three on defense. Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, DeJean Cooper, and Q, gets the fourth.
DeJean Cooper again.
Cooper DeJean. Coop
for short. Yeah, I mean, well, how many people in Derrick Henry's career? I mean, I don't watch every one of his games, but you'd think he'd make it a highlight if someone else did that to Derrick Henry. He's usually the guy bowling over everybody else.
Yeah.
And to have Cooper, our rookie, take him and drive him back, pick him up and drive him into the turf. I mean,
yeah,
that was awesome.
He was, to be fair to Henry, he was trying to secure that pass.
It wasn't like he was going full.
A little bit of a double clutch going on, and right in that second double clutch is right when. But that's what I'm like.
You like the physicality, and we're not here to say that if it's a one-on-one contest that Cooper DeJean is going to run over Henry. I mean, we know that's not going to happen, but the physicality is what you like to see, and he's a cornerback.
He's fast. He does not hesitate. He reads the play quickly, and he's off like a rocket, and he doesn't miss when he gets there. So those would be my 4 thumbs up on the defensive side. I'll hold off on that.
Interesting. You mentioned how he diagnoses the play and he gets there fast. It's exactly what Sidney Brown does, except Sidney Brown is not as sure of a tackler in that he misses some tackles. Like he'll take a bad angle every once in a while. And maybe that's why he's not starting yet.
Could be.
He is almost overly aggressive to his detriment, where he's going to try to level the guy and doesn't always, make the hit. Whereas Cooper DeJean diagnoses, takes the right angle, and takes the guy down.
Shuts it down. I would bet that Sidney Brown would have had that interception that McCallum had in his hands.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And
he probably would have run that one back. But that's what you get with Sidney. But what do you got for thumbs up on the
thumbs up for me? I have Jalen Carter. Again, I think it's worth mentioning, even though we just said, Jalen Carter and everybody else, but the guy is becoming an absolute force. I mentioned going way back, the guys have been following this program, the audience out there since the audio days before we were on YouTube. When they drafted Carter, I said, he reminds me, I wasn't comparing him, saying he was going to be as good as Jerome Brown or anything like that. I just said, when I saw him on tape in college, he reminded me of Jerome Brown. And I wasn't throwing out these flowers of Jerome Brown comparisons his entire career, because you have to start being consistent. Number one, he was showing flashes of being potentially as good as Jerome Brown, but now he's throwing games together and he's becoming the disruptive force that Jerome Brown was. So that comparison is starting to come more in line as we get, which is what we wanted in his, as his career goes on. every single game now he's becoming a force. And that one play where he completely wrecked, we talk about his game wrecker. He wrecked about 3 or 4, at least, maybe more.
Yeah, he did.
3 or 4 handful of plays that he completely wrecked just on his own last night. One of them, of course, the most obvious one is when he was in the face of I forget what the play was, but he was like 5 yards. Was it Flowers? Yeah, it was an end around or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, that was a 6-yard loss, 7-yard loss, and that was completely because he smoked this guy. He's just smart. That's the thing. He's got the physical tools, but he is reading the play. It's not like he's just trying to beat his guy. He's got that peripheral vision where he's not only beating his guy, but he could see he could read the plays that's going on, and he just much like Cooper DeJean, he knows where to go. It's awesome to see because the Eagles. Some people said they took a risk taking him because he had some legal issues, or he had that car accident in college, and he people were concerned about his potential behavior in the NFL, but he's got to give him credit so far. He's stayed out of trouble. He hasn't even been rumored to be in any type of trouble, and he's getting better. And he seems to be a player that wants to be good. That's the other thing. That's what you want to see in a player. He knows he's good, but they'll ask him. I think it was like maybe the 5th game of the year. He had a good game, and he's like, "Nah, I didn't think I played well." Yeah. So he's like self-critical of his own performance. Yeah. And now he's stringing these games together where he is becoming, even when he was double teamed against the Rams, almost every single play, he still is making an impact.
It looks like this game was proof of concept. Proof is in the pudding of Howie taking an aging defense and completely restructuring it in a year and getting the right coach to get them all buying in. And that to have no letdown, like we went from like, oh, our guys are getting old too. We're actually better right now. This is since Sirianni's been here, this is the best defense that we've had.
It is, and mainly probably because of our linebacker play. Because we didn't really have much at linebacker during even our Super Bowl. Well, we had Nigel Bradham, who was pretty good during the Super Bowl game. But other than that,
we had Birds and Kaiser. We weren't that bad. But
Kaiser
White.
Oh, because you're white. Yeah, they were pretty good. Yeah, that's true. That's true. White was a player.
But nobody's played like Zach Vaughn.
No.
Zach playing like friggin'. I don't know. I can't even name a middle linebacker that's been that great on the Eagles.
Oh, he's been so huge. He's good against the pass defense. He's good against rushing. He's a good blitzer. I mean, it's amazing that the Saints didn't see what they had in this guy. Sometimes it just makes a change like that. Like they only see him a certain way. Fangio's got the wisdom to be like, you know what? This guy could play middle linebacker because the Saints didn't think he could be middle linebacker. Yeah. Fangio thought he could, and man, can he?
Yep.
He's unbelievable. And then Nakobe Dean, we've talked about him. We were critical of him early in the season. The guy, and here's another guy who's stringing together good games. I mean, when was the last time he talked negatively about Nakobe Dean? It's probably been at least a month. So, Nakobe keeps playing well to the point where when he left the game, I'm like, oh, shoot, because there's no Van Sumer. We can talk about it, but Van Sumer's out for the season.
Is he really?
Yeah, he tore in practice. He did something to his knee where he's out for the year. I don't know if it's a tear, but he's tough.
I love that guy. I love that guy, and I cannot wait to see him back at fullback. I did notice that Grant Calcaterra.
Yeah, that's why he's in
fullback position.
Yeah, that's why.
On a player too, and I was like, oh, where's Summerlin? But that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what happened there.
All right, what do you have for offense?
Offense. I got 3 offenses, but since I mentioned them earlier, is let's take a look and give credit for it's more special teams. But so our punter, 6 punts during the game, 5 of them ended up inside the 20, 5 out of the 6.
That's crazy good.
And we know a couple of them were inside the 5 or the 10.
Yeah.
And he had a 51-yard average. That is spectacular by our punter. So. Yep. We don't talk about special teams much, but I definitely wanted to point out, had an amazing game. And in a game that is going to be tight because you're playing on the road against a really good team, field position is huge. And that might be, when you get to the nuts and bolts, talk about the highlights and catches and all that. But when you get down to field position, against a good team, and you're constantly putting them down into the inside 20 or 10-yard line, which the Eagles did, courtesy of man and their special teams, Brown and everybody else. That was huge. That was huge.
Huge
So
impact.
definitely point him out. Thumbs up.
I agree with that completely. There was no errors on special teams, right? Jake Elliott outkicks Tucker, who's just having a weird season over there with Baltimore.
The guy has been so good. In fact, historically, he's one of the best kickers of all time.
Yeah,
he's struggling this year. I think he's going to figure it out. He's just that good. But it was nice that he missed yesterday a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, those are momentum killers. If those points, who knows how the game turns out? But I still would have.
We just lost you, man. All right. I don't know if you can hear me, but we just lost you. So until Matt gets back on, I'll move along to my next thumbs up, and that would be, of course, Barkley. Barkley's numbers, by the way, 23 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Most of that was in the second half as the Eagles stuck with the run, and Barkley just continued to do his thing and broke it late. Again, we talked about the offensive defensive lines. They just out-physical the other teams. I think it's one of those things where the Eagles, we talked about the slow start they always get into. That doesn't help them. But over the course of the game, the Eagles' offensive and defensive line, their physicality and their dominance just take a toll on every team. And by the second half, late in the game, fourth quarter, they're just worn out. These teams have been beaten down on both sides of the lines, courtesy of the Eagles' strength on both sides of the lines. And then you'll see, Barkley take advantage of that, and boom, he's gone for 30-yard touchdown or a 70-yard touchdown. So that's been kind of the secret of the Eagles' success this season, as they just mash teams. They're just more physical team on both lines. We knew the offensive line would be more physical just because their size and their skills. So that's not as surprising as this new defensive line we're talking about with Jalen Carter and these younger guys that are just dominating the offensive lines in the same fashion by consistently getting pressure. So I'll just keep going with my thumbs up. And, I just talked about the D-line and O-line. Those were both noted. And Zach Bond, we just got finished touching on him as far as thumbs up. Thumbs down until we get Matt back, if we get Matt back. Thumbs down will be the passing game. I just thought that overall the passing game was a little bit disappointing. I know they didn't have Devontae Smith. He was a early scratch in the game. Tried to give it a go, wasn't able to. So maybe it's just without him in the offense, they just don't seem to be firing on all cylinders. And then just the 3 or 4 series where they went to A.J. Brown and then didn't go to him the entire game. I found that kind of puzzling. The rest of the game they didn't go to A.J. Brown at all. And then Goddard had a nice touchdown run, so that was good. And then we had not much, nobody else really contributing. Dotson, he just had the one catch. I don't know why they don't throw to him more. I don't know if it's because he's not getting open, but the guy seems to catch everything. So I don't know why he's not more of a factor in this offense, especially when Devontae Smith is not in the offense. So the passing game in general, I thought Hurts played well. Matt mentioned how, he didn't turn the ball over. I just wish I saw a little bit more out of the passing game, especially since the Ravens, that was their weakness. They're one of the lower teams in the league in pass defense. Excuse me. But the Eagles were not able to really exploit that weakness at all during the game. So that was a little bit concerning to me. I just thought they'd go to the air a little bit more, which is why my prediction was a little bit higher in terms of the scoring for the game. So that would be my one of my 2 thumbs down. The other thumbs down, of course, is the first quarter offense, which I already talked about being an issue. And one that I seem to have more of an issue with it than Matt does in terms of my concern level for their first quarter offense. I just don't understand why every single game they sputter to get anything going, game in and game out. It's a consistent problem for 12 weeks now in the season. They just can't do anything in the first quarter. And yeah, I mentioned it before that, that's these teams all strategize and game plan during the week. These head coaches all get together in their back rooms and try to figure out a game plan where they do script the first 10 or 15 plays of the game. And so for 12 straight weeks now, the Eagles, when they do this brainstorming and game planning, go nowhere. So I don't understand that. Like, that should be your most effective plays, because that's what you're scheming and planning during the week based on what you're seeing against the team you're playing. So to me, I'd love to figure out why that is, or have the press who are talking to the Eagles ask them that question. But nobody really has. They talk about the first quarter struggles, but nobody positions that question like, hey, you guys every single week script the first 10 or 15 plays. For 12 straight weeks now into the season, you guys have done nothing with that. What's the problem? What's going on here? They don't position or ask the question in that manner. I wish somebody in the press would. I'm not sure if we're going to get Matt back. He's been gone now for a while, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but he is not here, folks. So that was it for thumbs up. And then, of course, Cooper DeJean. We talked about him. Not thumbs down, by the way. I'm just kind of an added note. Just love to see him and Q, Jalen Carter, the youth of this team, really coming through. Sweat is really starting to pick his game up as well. He's been very consistently getting pressure over the last couple of months now. And we talked about Milton Williams, and Jomo was in there. All these guys really contributing. This defense is getting pressure. Again, they're not leading the league in sacks or getting a ton of sacks every game, but they are getting their quarterback off the mark, and that's really the key when you're talking about a pass rush. All right, that's it for what I wanted to cover. Another huge win for the Eagles. They got to keep it going. They do have what many would consider a gimme win next week. You do always have to, look out for the potential of running into a trap game. Matt kind of mentioned that earlier in the show. I feel that if this game was on the road, I can't see the Eagles, having a trouble or struggling with Carolina next week because it's at home. Is the trap game potential always there for a game like Carolina? Absolutely. We're going to dive into it later this week and get into the Carolina and give our thoughts on it. But I just, at least right now, maybe as the week goes on, I got to do a little more research on Carolina and see how. I know they're playing much better. But do I really see them as a potential threat next weekend? At least right now, I'd have to say no. But let me dive into it a little bit more. We'll be back to talk about the preview that game a little bit later this week, probably on Thursday. Hey, Matt comes back as I was just about to almost sign off here. Welcome back, Matt. I don't know what happened there. Oh, now he's gone again. That was quick hello and goodbye. All right, we'll give him another 30 seconds or so as I try to ad lib here and give him a couple of seconds to try to get back in. Excuse me. So while we're waiting on Matt, make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. All right. So whether you're listening to this for 5 minutes or all the way through, give us a like and subscribe. Hey, there he is.
Can't help it. When mom calls, you got to answer the phone. So,
that's what happened. Okay.
Yep.
So all right. Yeah, that's true. Okay. She's always got great timing with this stuff.
Yeah. She's an Eagles fan too, though, so it's all good.
She is. So good. Yeah, good for her.
And you were just wrapping up the show, so I'm sure I agree with what you said.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was just finishing my my thumbs down, and the only two thumbs down I had again was first quarter offense, and really just the passing game in general. I thought the passing game, going against the Ravens, that's their weakness, and the Eagles just weren't able to exploit that at all.
I think a lot of that is Hurts, actually. I think he's a 1-2 read at the most quarterback. Yeah. And then he scrambles and he's like, oh crap, they've got that figured out. I forgot they've got that figured out, and then I throw it away. So it's like he's doing the bear. He's what's crazy is if he could just learn how to read defenses, he'd be an exceptional quarterback. But he's gonna be like Neil O'Donnell, who can run a bit, is where I have him. And people are probably going to be angry with that statement, but I'm like, you can run. You have a absolutely super cool head all the time, which is fantastic, and that's going to win more games than not.
Yep.
His best play.
The guy wins games.
Yeah, his best play is throwing that ball away and just living to see the next down. Do that, and we will keep winning. We could probably win the Super Bowl. But people expected him.
Obviously, there's a little bit of a fall off when Devontae Smith is not out there too. But even when he's out there, sometimes the Eagles still struggle against teams they really should be able to, exploit with their
consistently.
Do. So Jalen, he's never going to be a guy every week that's going to put up 300 yards, three touchdowns. It's just not Jalen Hurts. And so if any Eagle fans out there still think he's going to be or is that type of quarterback, I think we're now 5 years in his career. That's not Jalen Hurts' game. He's going to be smart cerebrally. He's going to be a good leader. He's going to make the throws. He does make critical throws when he needs to. Well, I mean, he definitely can do that. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not going to throw the ball 60 yards downfield. He had a key throw to Dotson on one play to keep the drive alive. That was very good. And he does. He's got the talent. Throw to Goddard too in that big third down, that crossing route. That was perfectly thrown because that Goddard was covered, but he threw it exactly where he needed to. That's what I mean. He can make the key throws. He just is not a guy that's going to light up the scoreboard with his offensive. I mean, he will still, for fantasy-wise, he's going to get a lot of points because he runs touchdowns and throws them in. So we're not talking about fantasy, though. Just talking about football. And he's not a guy that's going to, he's not Joe Burrow. He's not Herbert even. He's not a guy with a great throwing arm and can go to 2 or 3 reads deep every snap. It's not him. Nope. Read 2, throw the ball away. If it's not there, I'm fine with that. But so he, that's why he's my middle thumb. He doesn't get a thumbs up or thumbs down. Like he could be better. But he's not losing us any games. Right. No, I thought he played well enough to win. And at the end of the day, he wins. Whether you want to be critical or Hurts or not, he wins way more than he loses. So, and he's gotten rid of, to his credit, he hasn't turned the ball over in 5 or 6 games now. So, pretty much 8 games. Although he almost fumbled the, it looked like the center exchange on the tush push at the goal. I think he got a lucky call on that play. I didn't think he got over the line. I think he got over the line because he reached out. He extended to get over the line, but I wasn't sure if his knee was down before. He was down. Yeah. I don't know. But, but to your point, it was almost like him and Jurgen still have an issue. They're not smoothed out yet. Yeah. They're going to get some things figured out. But I love the Nick Sirianni is doing great as a head coach. Especially with all the criticism early, he's got this team on the train. The train's going forward. And if you're on the tracks, look out. So, thumbs up to Sirianni. I don't really have any other thumbs down. I thought the Eagles showed when they had to. They did. So we'll wrap it up. I mean, I thought there's just in general, the biggest outside of the fact that they have Barkley, who is clearly the Eagles' most dangerous weapon, and A.J. Brown when they decide to make him more part of the game plan. It's the offense defensive line. That's the Eagles' identity. It is, we're going to maul you on both sides of the line. And especially on the offensive side, by the third quarter and fourth quarter, these teams are just worn out from getting beaten on the whole game. And that's when you see Barkley take off for 40 yards and a touchdown or take off for 70 yards because these teams are just completely they're like waving the white flag. Okay, we've had enough. A little more. We can't take it anymore. You know? And they've had enough of Jalen. They've had enough of Jalen Carter that way too. Like these offensive linemen are getting tired playing that game. It's pretty crazy. Sweat deserves more credit. I was watching him a lot yesterday too, and he's constantly getting pressure too. May not always get there, but again, he's getting Jackson off. Sweat was beating his guy a lot last night. And again, doesn't come up on a stat sheet much, but he was playing well. And the whole line, the whole D line. I mean, we haven't talked about Jordan Davis. I thought he played very well. He was a couple plays where he stuffed Henry on his own. Like he was the guy that stuffed Henry. That's what he's here to do. So Jordan Davis, I thought, had a really strong game, which is good because we invested a lot in him. I think we're also, much like we talked about Hurts, is not going to be a Joe Burrow. Jordan Davis is not going to be. He's probably not going to live up to his first round, status. But if he can be a guy that can be counted on to stuff the run and be that clog of the run game, that's fine. He's not going to be a guy that's going to get penetration also and be a pass rusher. It's just unfortunately that's not going to be part of his game. But if he could be a guy that stuffs the run and holds the wall there so the linebackers can do their job we were talking about, because we're undersized. Even Bond, as great as he is, undersized guy.
Yep.
Kobe Dean, we obviously know he's undersized. So that's where those guys up front need to at least be slowing down and not letting these holes go through where the linebackers are one-on-one against these linebackers, because that's not their strength. Yep. But if he can clog the line and then Bond and N'Kobe go in there for run support, that's ideal, and that's what he's doing. So, all right. Any other final thoughts?
No, we needed that one, and it's a test number 2 after the Rams, and we passed that test in flying colors. So let's get past Carolina. I'm not even sure if there's any more tough games really left on the schedule, but
Carolina at home. Then I believe
I love the fact for fantasy purposes that Detroit is still.
That's what?
Must have lost you.
No, I didn't hear.
I don't know. Did my screen freeze or something?
He said, I all I heard was for fantasy purposes, Detroit, and then I lost you. So what were you saying?
Oh, yeah. Just because I got Barkley on my fantasy team. So he'll keep playing as long as Detroit keeps. Yep. Neither team can settle going into the final.
Rest their starters. I got you. Yeah.
Yep.
No, they're going to have to play out because Detroit, even if Detroit fell off, you got Minnesota with only 2 losses. You have Green Bay with 3 losses. So, yeah, the Eagles will be playing their starters. So anybody has Eagles players in fantasy, they're not going to be resting their guys. So, and by the way, my fantasy team just never shows up for a shoot. Oh, we're playing Miracles? Nah, not going to play. And, A.J. Brown.
Been like 11 years.
There's nothing. None of my guys did anything. And not that I have a good team this year anyway, but
you had one guy. You had him on the bench, though.
Yeah, the one guy that went off, I put on my bench. That's my season in a nutshell. But so unless Lutz kicks like 5 50-yard field goals tonight, I'm on. But I'm only trying to play the role one anyway. But we can get to that game now. So anyway, long story short, if you do have the Eagles,
keep rolling.
Eagles, they're going to be playing their guys all the way through the rest of the year. Yeah, keep this thing rolling. We'll be back later this week to talk and highlight the Carolina game, preview that one. And, that's at home. The Eagles are at home. They haven't been home for a while, so it's going to be good to have the Eagles home. And then I think they play Carolina. Is it not Carolina? Is that Washington they play after that? They have the other game with Washington coming up. I don't know if it's
they've got 3 East games coming up, right? If there's 5 games left, Carolina, Commanders, Dallas, and the Giants are 4 of those games. So who's the 5th one?
The other game? The heck is the other game? I don't remember now, top of my head. It's at home. I know that. Because their only road game left is the Commanders.
Who's the other team in the NFC South? We played the Falcons. We played
Saints. We already played them. Carolina, we're playing.
Yeah, so who's the 4th team in the South?
Tampa, Carolina, Saints, Atlanta. We played them all.
Oh, we played them all. Yeah.
So that, hell, man, you're gonna make me look it up now before we go.
Must be a random.
Can't leave the audience. Can't leave the audience hanging here. They're probably shouting it out. Hey guys, like I said, once we get to the live stream, which we're gonna do once we get enough subscriptions, which is why I'm asking you, please, get a moment, subscribe to the channel. What the hell is the last team they play? Pittsburgh. Can't forget about the Steelers. Yeah, that's their last true test on the schedule. I mean, NFC East teams, maybe Dallas poses a little bit of a threat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Steelers will be their last, but that's games at home. Now, Steeler fans travel, so there might be a smattering of Steeler fans there, but
that'll be a good one. So one more
their last test. And that's the team, when we talked about this a couple weeks ago, I was like, the Ravens are the team that I think is a bigger test than the Steelers. And the Eagles pretty much had their way with it. I mean, it helps that they missed some field goals, maybe a little bit closer game. I thought that the garbage touchdown kind of makes the score a little bit, not really representative of how the game was. But at the same time, they did miss 2 field goals and an extra point. So that's 7 points anyway. So I guess it is pretty much representative of the game. But Eagles won on a tough road on the road against a really good team that I think was like 24-1 against the NFC.
Yep.
So Final thoughts. We'll let them go, and then we'll come back later in the week and we'll preview the Carolina game.
Keep rolling.
Let's keep it rolling.
Pedal to the metal. Keep rolling. Everybody stay healthy.
Yeah, hopefully get Devontae Smith back next week. We'll see. But he seems to be – he almost gave it a go, but they ended up backing him off. So otherwise, I don't think there was any knock on wood. I think I heard Goddard might have banged up his knee a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be anything too serious. So it looks like they got through another game unscathed, which, by the way, I just heard about the 49ers. They lost McCaffrey now for the season. He got hurt again, and now he's out for 6 weeks. And their backup running back is on IR. So they lost both their running backs. The guy that was in there for him that was playing really well, they just lost him. That team's been destroyed with injuries.
How many years though now? So it's like, is there something wrong with the conditioning program of the Niners? Because it seems like they're banged up every year. Ever since we knocked Purdy out of the playoffs, dinged up season.
That's not Reddick, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, tough season for the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough to be a 49ers fan. All their guys have been just absolutely decimated with injuries.
Yep.
Which is good for the Eagles because that's one of the teams during the year. I'm like, that's the team where if you got to go and play there, man, I don't know. They just match up well versus the Eagles.
Just keep flying.
Keep flying. All right, we're signing off. Make sure you like, subscribe, and come back and check back with us later in the week when we'll preview the Carolina game. For Matt, this is Geoff. Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff and Matt. We'll talk to you all later on this week. Fly, Eagles, fly. On to the next one. Take care. See you.